This is Barry Zalma on Insurance. I am an attorney who has retired from the practice of law and now spend my time as an insurance claims consultant and expert witness, an author and producer of these videos. Today I'd like to talk about false swearing as it is referenced in insurance policies as a defense to false and fraudulent claims. In common language, the false swearing provision of an insurance policy merely means that if the insured lies under oath, the policy is void, whether the lie is in a proof of loss or at an examination under oath. For example, in Texas and Oklahoma, false swearing is explained this way, quote, where an insured knowingly and willfully overestimates the value of property destroyed or damaged, the policy is voided and the insured's right to recover is defeated. This is merely a restatement of the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Claflin versus Commonwealth Insurance Company, about which we've spoken in earlier videos. The reason for the false swearing defense can be explained because it would be unjust to allow a claimant to misrepresent facts under oath that might lead to a valid defense, and then allow him to escape the consequences of the falsehood simply because he had succeeded so well that the company was unable to establish the defense. The Eighth Circuit recently upheld a false swearing defense when it stated, quote, the Willises also argue that State Farm made no showing that it had actually relied on Mr. Willis's misrepresentations or that it would have done anything different had Mr. Willis told the truth. The jury was not instructed, however, that a showing of reliance was necessary, and the Willises did not object to the jury instruction. We think, moreover, that the instruction was correct, although reliance must be shown in a claim for fraud in the inducement, and an exception to this general rule exists, of course, if a statutory provision specifically makes a party's reliance an element of the defense of fraud or false swearing. This was a decision called Willis versus State Farm Fire and Casualty Company, a 2000 decision of the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeal. The New Jersey legislature defined false swearing as existing when a person makes a false statement under oath or equivalent affirmation, or swears or affirms the truth of such a statement previously made, when he does not believe the statement to be true, close quote. New Jersey Statute NJSA 2C-28-2. In North Carolina, the Court of Appeal recognized that it is a basic principle of insurance law that the insurer may avoid his obligation under the insurance contract by a showing that the insured made representations in his application that were material and false. Misrepresentations on an insurance application are material if the knowledge or ignorance of it would naturally influence the judgment of the insurer in making the contract and accepting the risk. In order to void the policy, the defendant must show that the insured made statements that were 1, false, 2, knowingly and willfully made, and 3, material. This is Bell versus Nationwide, a 2001 decision for the North Carolina Court of Appeal. False swearing, of course, is a crime in all states. An insured that is guilty of false swearing is subject to the possibility of criminal liability. the person swearing falsely also destroys that person's right to recover under a policy of insurance. An insurer can assert false swearing as an affirmative defense to an action brought by an insured. To constitute such a defense, the false swearing statement must have been made under oath with the knowledge that it is false, and with the intent that the person to whom the statement is made will rely on it. Actual reliance is not necessary. To support a defense to a claim or a suit on a policy, the statement must be false and material to the claim. That's it. That's all that's necessary. Almost every policy that insures against the risk of loss of property requires the insured to submit a sworn statement in proof of loss. The proof of loss must provide complete details regarding the property insured, the origin of the loss, and the value of the property claimed, stolen, or destroyed. A policy usually also requires the insured to give the insurer access to his, her, or its books and records to prove the claim. Where fraud is suspected, the insurer may demand that the insured be examined under oath. Significant deviations between the sworn proof of loss and the facts developed at an examination under oath can be the basis of a defense of fraud or false swearing. If false swearing is found to exist, it will normally constitute a complete defense to any claim under a property insurance policy. A false statement made under oath in an examination under oath or proof of loss must be made with knowledge that it is false. The difference between fraud and false swearing is that since false swearing involves a false statement made under oath, it is more difficult for the person speaking to back off from it when confronted. The value of the false swearing defense in fraud investigations is that it can provide an alternative basis for denying a claim. If the adjuster cannot prove fraud, but can prove that the insured lied under oath, the insurer can deny the claim with impunity. This is well illustrated by the case called Parasco versus Specific Indemnity, a 1996 case of the District Court in Pennsylvania, where the insurer suspected arson and denied the insured's fire loss claim. Although the insurer could not prove arson by the insured, there was a legitimate question as to whether the fire was incendiary in nature. The insurer also had clear proof of misrepresentations made by the insured under oath regarding, among other things, the active attempt to sell the property at the time of the fire. The court held that the materiality of false statements is to be determined at the time of the investigation. The court further held that the insurer's investigation into the insured's possible motive to commit arson was entirely reasonable and prudent, and inquiries into the insured's financial condition were therefore material to the issue of motive. Evidence that the insured's intended to mislead Specific Indemnity was found in the following particulars. 1. Overvaluation of the loss. 2. Inclusion of the proof of items that never existed. 3. Undervaluation of salvaged property. 4. False statements regarding ownership, encumbrances relating to the property, and the origin of the fire. false swearing can be proved by direct evidence. Usually direct evidence is not available. Most often, proof of false swearing comes from the admission of circumstantial evidence on the issue of false swearing. The absence of a criminal conviction for arson, fraud, or false swearing does not even come close to deprive the insurer of the false swearing defense. The burdens of proof are different. The crime requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense only requires proof by a preponderance, that is, 50% plus 1. As both the proof of loss and the testimony at examination under oath are sworn to by the insured, any material falsehood is sufficient to establish the defense of false swearing. The same is true of any difference between the facts testified to during the examination under oath or stated in the proof of loss and the facts developed from an audit of the insured's books and records or an insurer's investigation. The U.S. Supreme Court stated the rule in Claflin v. Commonwealth, an 1884 decision, as follows, quote, "A false answer as to any matter of fact material to the inquiry, knowingly and willfully made, with an intent to deceive the insurer, would be fraudulent. If it accomplished its result, it would be fraud effected. If it failed, it would be a fraud attempted. No one can be permitted to say, in respect to his own statements upon a material matter, that he did not expect to be believed. Their materiality, in the eye of the law, consists in their tendency to influence the conduct of the party who has an interest in them and to whom they are addressed." In another case, the California Court of Appeal found in Imperial Casualty v. Sagamonian, a 1988 decision that was the culmination of 15 years of my life, although I'm not mentioned in the opinion, that the insured knowingly misrepresented to his insurer facts material to the decision to insure. Sagamonian had informed Imperial that he had never incurred a loss, nor had any insurer ever canceled or declined to renew a policy issued to him. The court found that Sagamonian had had insurance canceled by 3 prior insurers, had suffered 5 prior losses, and had collected on a claim with another prior insurer on the same day he signed the application for insurance with Imperial Casualty, stating he had no prior losses. Sagamonian was suspected of setting fire to his own home and of presenting a false and fraudulent claim. The arson for profit was difficult to prove, but proving that he had lied when he applied for the insurance was simple and obvious and defeated his bad faith suit against the insurer. Evidence was also gathered in the case, although it does not show in the appellate record, that revealed that the appraisals of the property he used as proof of his claim were false and fraudulent. The appraiser himself admitted that he signed blank appraisals and that the insured must have added some zeros when he typed up the appraisals, making a $1,000 item a $10,000 item. Insurance fraud investigators and lawyers faced with potential insurance fraud must remember that insurance policies are contracts, and that when clear and unambiguous are always enforceable. The standard fire policy adopted in every state provides, quote, concealment fraud. This entire policy shall be void if, whether before or after a loss, the insured is willfully concealed or misrepresented any material fact or circumstance concerning this insurance, or the subject thereof, or the interest of the insured therein, or in case of any fraud or false swearing by the insured relating thereto. Close quote. The language is not only clear and unambiguous, it is mandated by statute. If the insured swears falsely, the entire policy, quote, shall be void, close quote. Insurers should not avoid the use of this important tool when they establish that an insured has sworn falsely. This video was adapted from my book, Insurance Fraud, Volume 1, which is available as both a Kindle book and as a paperback from Amazon.com. If you found this video to be interesting or useful, please refer it to your colleagues, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, my Rumble channel, and my blog so that you can learn of future videos and blog postings. Thank you for your attention.